What if a single, ancient way of thinking could fundamentally change how you see the world every single day? A method, not of accumulating more facts, but of unlocking the very structure of reality, of discerning truth from deeply ingrained illusion. This isn't about abstract theories locked away in old books. It's about a dormant power within you, a cognitive toolkit waiting to be awakened. In an age of relentless information overload, where opinions often shout louder than carefully considered facts and subtle manipulation is rife in every corner of our digital lives, how do you find solid ground? How do you navigate the overwhelming noise, make decisions with genuine confidence, and see beyond the often deceptive surface of things? The answer, surprisingly, lies not in acquiring more data, but in cultivating a refined mental toolkit, the toolkit of the philosopher. But the word philosophy, doesn't that immediately conjure images of impenetrable texts, obscure jargon, and figures lost in thought within distant ivory towers? What if that common perception is a profound misconception, a barrier to accessing something incredibly valuable? Imagine possessing the innate ability to dissect any argument presented to you, to instantly identify those subtle, hidden assumptions that unconsciously sway your judgment and the judgment of others. Picture yourself articulating your own thoughts with such unshakable clarity and precision that your ideas gain undeniable power. This isn't a superpower reserved for a select few intellectual geniuses. It's a learnable discipline, a set of cognitive habits. So, how does one actually begin to think like a philosopher, especially if you've never formally studied the subject or even opened a dense philosophy book? What is the first crucial cognitive skill you absolutely need to cultivate to embark on this transformative path? It's simpler in concept, and perhaps more profoundly impactful in practice than you might currently expect. The first pillar of philosophical thinking is the art of identifying underlying assumptions. These are the unspoken beliefs, the unexamined foundations upon which our arguments, opinions, and even our entire worldviews are built. Like the hidden roots of a massive tree, they are often invisible, yet they dictate the tree's entire structure and strength. Learning to see them is the first step towards intellectual freedom, allowing you to assess the true stability of any idea you encounter. Consider everyday conversations, news articles, or even your own internal monologues. How often do we accept claims at face value without a second thought? A philosopher, however, instinctively asks, what must be true for this statement to be true? What is being taken for granted here? This isn't about being needlessly contrarian. It's about digging deeper, exposing the often unstated premises that, if false, could cause the entire argument to crumble into dust. For example, a common societal assumption might be that more wealth always leads to more happiness. A philosophical approach would rigorously question this. Is happiness solely dependent on wealth, or are there other, perhaps more significant, contributing factors? Are there countless examples of wealthy individuals who are profoundly unhappy, or people with modest means who radiate contentment? To practice this vital skill, take any belief you hold dear or any argument you encounter in your daily life. Try to meticulously list at least 3 underlying assumptions it relies upon for its perceived validity. You might be genuinely surprised, even unsettled, by what you find hidden beneath the surface. This exercise trains your mind to look beyond the superficial, to become acutely sensitive to the often unstated foundations of thought. Once assumptions are laid bare and brought into the light of scrutiny, the next crucial skill is rigorous logical analysis. This involves meticulously examining the relationships between ideas, checking for internal consistency, and ensuring that conclusions genuinely and undeniably follow from their stated premises. Philosophy, at its very core, is a discipline of reason. It teaches us to build intellectual structures that are sound, coherent, and can withstand the most intense critical scrutiny. Logic provides the indispensable tools to differentiate between a valid argument, one that makes rational sense, and a fallacious one, which is inherently flawed. A valid argument is one where, if the premises are demonstrably true, the conclusion must also be true. Fallacies, on the other hand, are insidious errors in reasoning, deceptive arguments that may appear convincing on the surface, but are actually logically unsound. For instance, if someone proclaims, "This scientific theory must be wrong because the person who proposed it is known to be a bad person," that's a clear ad hominem fallacy. The moral character of the person is entirely irrelevant to the truth or falsity of the theory itself. Philosophical thinking demands that we assess ideas on their own intrinsic merits, using impartial reason and verifiable evidence, rather than being swayed by irrelevant emotional factors. To cultivate this skill, practice deconstructing arguments you encounter in media, discussions, or even your own thoughts. Identify the premises, the statements offered as reasons or evidence, and then the conclusion that is drawn. Then ask, does the conclusion logically and unavoidably follow from these premises? Are there any hidden steps or unstated assumptions that, if proven false, would break the entire chain of reasoning? Philosophical progress, and indeed clear communication in any field, often hinges on the meticulous clarification of concepts. Words like justice, freedom, truth, or consciousness can be used very loosely and ambiguously in everyday language, leading to profound confusion and unproductive misunderstandings. Philosophers strive for utmost precision, meticulously defining key terms to ensure everyone involved in a discussion is actually discussing the same thing. Consider a heated debate about freedom. One person might be passionately arguing for freedom from external coercion by the state, while another might be equally fervent about freedom to achieve one's full human potential, which might require societal support. Without explicitly clarifying which definition of freedom is being used by each party, their discussion will likely be entirely unproductive, a dialogue of the deaf. This critical skill isn't just about abstract philosophical terms. Even in highly practical problem-solving scenarios, defining the problem with utmost accuracy is often half the battle won. If your team is tasked with improving customer satisfaction, what does satisfaction, specifically and measurably, mean in this particular context? How will it be objectively assessed and tracked? Practice this by taking common abstract words you frequently use or hear others use, words like success, love, respect, or fairness. Try to write down a precise, operational definition for each. Then actively consider alternative definitions or significant nuances. How might employing different definitions fundamentally change the meaning of a statement or an entire argument? Beyond the crucial skill of analyzing others' arguments, a key philosophical capability is constructing your own sound and persuasive arguments. This means presenting your claims in a clear, logical, and compelling manner, thoroughly supported by credible evidence or strong, transparent reasoning. It's not about winning a debate through clever rhetoric or emotional appeals, but about contributing to a shared understanding of truth by building a case that is rationally compelling and intellectually honest. A sound argument typically possesses clear premises that are demonstrably true or at least highly plausible and widely accepted, and a conclusion that follows logically and ineluctably from these premises. Crucially, it also anticipates potential objections and thoughtfully addresses them, demonstrating intellectual honesty and commendable thoroughness. When you want to persuade someone of your viewpoint or explain your reasoning on a complex issue, try structuring your thoughts in this methodical way. Clearly state your main point, your conclusion, right at the outset. Then, carefully list the reasons, your premises, that directly support this point. Provide credible evidence or further detailed explanation for each premise as necessary. Finally, and very importantly, consider potential counterarguments. The ultimate goal isn't to be seen as infallible or to win every argument, but to be consistently reasonable and intellectually honest. Even if others ultimately disagree with your conclusion, a well-constructed argument presented respectfully commands respect and fosters productive, insightful dialogue. It clearly shows that your beliefs are not arbitrary whims, but the carefully considered result of diligent thought and rational consideration. Philosophers throughout history have often employed a remarkably powerful and versatile tool called the thought experiment. These are carefully constructed hypothetical scenarios designed to rigorously explore the implications of a particular concept, moral principle, or scientific theory, often pushing it to its logical or practical limits. They allow us to test ideas in the laboratory of the mind, when real-world experiments are impossible, unethical, or impractical. Thought experiments serve to clarify our intuitions, reveal potential inconsistencies or contradictions in our existing beliefs, or highlight the often unforeseen consequences of certain ethical stances. For example, the famous trolley problem forces us to confront deeply difficult moral choices and examine the underlying principles that govern our judgments about right and wrong, life and death. You can readily use thought experiments to navigate complex decisions in your own life. When facing a difficult choice with significant implications, imagine different scenarios unfolding. What if I chose option A? What are the likely short-term and long-term consequences, both intended and unintended? What core principles or values would I be upholding or potentially violating with this choice? The key to a truly effective thought experiment is to isolate the crucial variables and explore specific, targeted, what-if questions. Don't allow yourself to get bogged down in irrelevant or distracting details. Maintain a laser focus on the core concept or principle you're attempting to test or understand. Named after the renowned ancient Greek philosopher Socrates, the Socratic method is a powerful and enduring technique for exploring complex ideas through disciplined, systematic questioning. Socrates famously claimed that his only wisdom lay in knowing that he knew nothing, and he masterfully used questioning to help others discover inconsistencies and contradictions in their own beliefs and to collaboratively arrive at a deeper, more nuanced understanding. The Socratic method often begins with a seemingly simple question about a fundamental concept, such as what is justice or what is beauty? Then, when an initial answer is proposed, the questioner probes further, persistently asking for clarifications, concrete examples, and respectfully challenging any contradictions or unexamined assumptions that arise. You can effectively apply Socratic questioning to your own most deeply held beliefs. Ask yourself with unflinching honesty, why exactly do I believe this? What concrete evidence truly supports it? Are there plausible alternative explanations or interpretations that I haven't considered? What are the logical implications if I am, in fact, wrong about this? In conversations with others, especially when disagreements arise, try using Socratic questions respectfully to explore their viewpoints more deeply and charitably. Instead of immediately and directly disagreeing or launching a counterargument, ask open-ended questions like, "That's an interesting perspective. Can you tell me more about why you think that?" Or, "What specific experiences or evidence leads you to that particular conclusion?" While astute philosophers readily acknowledge the inherent complexities of human perception and the undeniable influence of individual perspective, a core, driving impulse in much of philosophy is the earnest pursuit of objective truth, that which is true independently of our personal beliefs, desires, or cultural conditioning. This arduous pursuit requires us to honestly acknowledge and actively counteract our own potential cognitive biases, insidious traps like confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out and favor evidence that confirms our pre-existing beliefs, availability heuristics, overestimating the importance of information that is most readily available in our memory, and many others. In an era where the phrase "my truth" is often emphasized, it's absolutely crucial to distinguish between valid personal experience or subjective perspective, which is important and deserving of respect, and claims about objective reality that can, in principle, be investigated, tested, and potentially verified or falsified through shared methods of inquiry. This unwavering commitment to objectivity doesn't mean that all philosophical questions possess singular, empirically verifiable answers. Many profound philosophical inquiries explore complex domains like ethics, aesthetics, meaning, and values, where reasoned judgment, internal coherence, and compelling argumentation are key, rather than definitive empirical proof. Running parallel to the famous Socratic declaration, "I know that I know nothing," the virtue of intellectual humility stands as a cornerstone of genuine philosophical thinking. It's the profound recognition that our individual knowledge is always incomplete, that we might very well be wrong even about things we feel certain about, and that there is always infinitely more to learn. Intellectual humility makes us far better learners, because it keeps us perpetually curious, open-minded, and genuinely receptive to new information and radically different perspectives. It acts as a vital safeguard against dogmatism, the dangerous tendency to cling rigidly and unthinkingly to beliefs, even in the face of compelling contradictory evidence or superior reasoning. How, then, do we actively cultivate this essential trait of intellectual humility? One powerful method is by deliberately seeking out viewpoints that fundamentally challenge our own deeply ingrained assumptions and cherished beliefs. It involves listening genuinely and empathetically to those who disagree with us, not merely to prepare a rebuttal, but to truly understand their reasoning and perspective. It is vital to remember that even the most brilliant and influential thinkers in human history have had their ideas rigorously challenged, refined, and often revised by subsequent generations. Progress in knowledge, whether scientific or philosophical, frequently comes from recognizing the inherent limits of current understanding and bravely pushing beyond them. While a sense of certainty can feel immensely comfortable and reassuring, authentic philosophical thinking actively embraces the constructive and often indispensable role of doubt. This is not a paralyzing, all-consuming cynical doubt, but rather a methodological doubt, a powerful intellectual tool for rigorous inquiry and deeper understanding. It's the kind of generative doubt that prompts us to persistently ask, "Is this really true?" René Descartes, a pivotal figure in modern philosophy, famously used methodological doubt to systematically strip away all beliefs that could possibly be doubted, in his arduous search for an absolutely indubitable foundation for all knowledge. Constructive doubt doesn't mean an outright rejection of everything or a descent into nihilism. It means judiciously suspending judgment until sufficient credible evidence or compelling reasoning is provided to warrant belief. It's about becoming comfortable with a degree of uncertainty while you actively investigate and explore, rather than rushing headlong into premature or poorly supported conclusions. When faced with a complex issue or a contentious topic, try the powerful exercise of arguing for the opposing side as persuasively as you can, even if, and especially if, you don't personally agree with it. This practice, born from a form of provisional doubt about one's own unassailable certainty, can often reveal hidden weaknesses in your own original position or illuminate unacknowledged strengths in the alternative viewpoint that you hadn't previously considered. After the crucial processes of analysis, questioning, doubting, and clarifying, comes the equally vital philosophical skill of synthesis. This is the remarkable ability to bring together diverse ideas, disparate insights, and seemingly unrelated pieces of information into a coherent, meaningful, and often novel whole. It's about discerning hidden connections, recognizing overarching patterns, and forming a more comprehensive, holistic understanding. Philosophical thinking isn't just about critical deconstruction. It is also profoundly and creatively constructive. The greatest philosophers throughout history have often synthesized groundbreaking ideas from various, sometimes seemingly unrelated, fields such as science, art, ethics, politics, and spirituality, to create comprehensive worldviews or innovative solutions to humanity's most complex and persistent problems. In your own learning journey and problem-solving endeavors, actively and consciously look for ways to connect new information with what you already know and understand. Ask yourself, how does this concept from psychology relate to that historical event I learned about? How can this abstract ethical principle concretely inform that practical decision I need to make? Synthesis is the fertile ground where true wisdom begins to emerge and flourish. It's not enough merely to accumulate many disconnected pieces of knowledge. The real power lies in understanding how they fit together, how they inform, enrich, and sometimes even challenge one another. Thinking like a philosopher, then, is emphatically not about rote memorization of arcane names, obscure dates, or complex doctrines. These invaluable intellectual skills are not the exclusive domain of cloistered academics or ivory tower intellectuals. They are profoundly accessible to anyone willing to engage in the deliberate, patient practice of thinking more deeply, more critically, and more reflectively. The journey of philosophical thinking is, by its very nature, ongoing and unending. It is a lifelong commitment to continuous learning, to the constant refinement of one's understanding of oneself and the world, and to the courageous, unflinching examination of ideas, both our own most cherished beliefs and those of others. It doesn't promise to provide all the answers, for many of life's deepest questions may remain mysteries. So the next time you encounter a challenging personal problem, a confusing public argument, a perplexing societal issue, or a deeply held belief that suddenly feels less certain, pause, take a breath, ask the deeper questions, uncover the hidden assumptions, clarify the ambiguous terms, seek the underlying logic, embrace the discomfort of doubt. The tools of philosophical inquiry are now before you, laid out and ready for use. The invitation is simply to pick them up and begin the challenging, yet immensely rewarding work, the sacred work of thinking like a philosopher. What unexamined assumptions in your own life will you challenge first? What crucial concepts cry out for clarification and deeper understanding?